Hello, hello. Hey, Stupid Hawker. How's it going? Happy Tuesday, everybody. Here we are. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do the go live message. So do that right now. Maybe we'll change the music to something a little more interesting.
Exactly clear whether they even truly exist or could be shown to in the physical universe.
Maximum warp.
Maximum warp.
If one day physics finds a use for them.
I gotta start disliking these tracks that have these like spoken word like monologues in the background. I like cannot. It is so distracting. It's the same person who does the Future Pants song where they're like just talking about how everyone's wearing future pants. It's like, what are you on about? Oh well. Hey, no Joel. We had a pretty great subscriber milestone last week. We got 420 subscribers over on Twitch, which is actually not that far behind my Twitch follower count. It's super weird that these platforms are growing at like a similar rate. Kind of strange, but kind of interesting. Hey, Rihanna Journey. How's it going? I just thought that was funny. It's not a real milestone. But I appreciate it, everyone who celebrated it with me. All right, so we're still working on our cutaway stuff. We're still working on the visual cutaways. I added a bunch. Well, I wouldn't say a bunch. I did some technical work yesterday. I made some new set buffer and set buffer component helper functions that will let us resize the buffer if necessary. I made it a little smarter so that if the new buffer's smaller than the old one, we just like, we don't bother resizing it. We just index into it. We like get a smaller, like a sub span of it, a slice of it, I guess is technically what we do. And then if it's bigger, we'll actually allocate a new array. And if it's exactly the same, we just do a straight copy. You're doing good? Yeah, I'm doing good too. Been super busy with work, which is why I keep starting late and ending early. So this will probably only be another like 2-hour stream or something like that. I really need to get back to like 3 hours, but it just hasn't been doable. But trying to reset expectations a little bit at work around like how much I can do there within the time span that I have. So hopefully we can get the progress is progress. Yeah, slow progress is still progress. So whatever, these are just helper functions. Who cares? I did run into something which I'm interested in, which I want to fix, which is I basically have this set buffer function, and I essentially said that if you want to alter the size of the buffer in the set buffer, like if you want to just swap out the array and it's the same size, fine. But if you want to change the size of the buffer, right now you have to use a set buffer component because you actually have to assign the component back with the new length of the buffer. And I want to look into whether that's actually necessary. Like if the component actually needs to know how long the buffer is. It could conceivably just get the buffer and then find out how long the buffer is. And if we can do that, we can change the way a bunch of this works. But that's something we're going to save for refactor week, for the next refactor week, whenever we do that again. Resetting work expectations is definitely good. Yeah. It's something you got to do every once in a while. Otherwise, you just get work piled up and piled up and piled up, and there's no end to it. And, you know, I got things to do. I got games to work on. Can't just spend it all at the day job. Anyway, so the point of doing what I did there was so that we could basically just... Well, actually, what I did there doesn't matter at all. Because what we're doing here is we're done filling out our hierarchy. We finished that up last week. So we can get a hierarchy of all the compartments that are in front of the compartment that we are looking at. So we have this information now. I think I did it in such a way that nothing is currently broken. We're going to verify that that's the case. Pay never seems to pile up like the work does. True. Truth. So this should all still work. We should still be able to, like, make some rooms. We can even make multiple rooms. So here's, like, a room, and we can make, like, another room. And so there's a system that's keeping track of which of these rooms are in front of the other ones visually. And we just need to change the cutaway code to actually go through that. And that's what we're going to do now. Where do we even do that? In the tile system, probably, right? I also have a snack, so apologies if I go quiet and, like, eat a little snack. I have a meeting right after this. I have no time to eat lunch. I did have kind of an idea about this. I built this whole system, or I built those helper functions we talked about at the beginning, these like set buffer functions, specifically set buffer component, which lets you scale down the buffer if you like, you know, you grabbed a buffer of a certain size and now you don't need all that size anymore. Especially if we're just going to take slices out of it. I thought for this purpose, for the purpose of the compartmentalization, we could just hard code it to be 64 values, which is kind of the limit of our compartment count at the moment anyway, because it's just the bits of like a hold on. Yeah, it's the bits of a U long, right? And that's 64 bits. Because even if we just do 64 times 64, that's like such a small number. Even if we then multiply that by 4, which we'll need to do for reasons that will become obvious later, that's still like basically the size of like a chunk, which should be like pretty cache friendly. I think that's what I limit my chunk sizes to. I'd be willing to bet that we do 16 KB chunk sizes. No particular reason we did that. I think that's almost like a holdover from like what Unity does. And I think it's a reasonable compromise. So we go in here. So I kind of want to, let's maybe do that first. I kind of want to hard code this to be 64. So we don't really need this count anymore. We could still get it. It could still save us some time, but like, I think what we're going to do here in get compartment hierarchy, I think we're gonna treat the... Well, we can just treat the hierarchy buffer as the same size. The thing we need to avoid is any kind of jumbling. Any kind of, like, mixing. Like this. Like what we're doing here. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So, like, we make a list of compartments. Or we make an empty list. What we do is we go through each block. If the block is a certain way, don't worry about this particular way, but if the block is a certain way, we'll do something else. But if we're doing like horizontal checking, like we're checking the neighbors along the same Z level, we make this list. We basically go through I is less than the count. And if the bit is set at that index, then we add that index to the list. And it basically keeps us from processing anything we don't need, really. But it's also kind of dumb. We could just process all of them really easily. Like, we don't really need to do it this way. There's no harm in doing it this way currently. Except that the hierarchy.span index. Yeah, there really isn't a problem doing it that way. We kind of need to... What we need to do is we need to clear the hierarchy each time. That's what we really need to do. Hey, Repo. How's it going? Let's just reset the hierarchy. We'll treat it as statically sized. Another day. Yes, indeed. Another week. Another day. Another... How's it going? I probably asked you that and you probably just said another day. Streamer brain. My memory is shorter than the length of a Twitch clip. Alright, so we're just going to reset the hierarchy every time. Who cares? We're going to leave it static, so we're never going to resize this because there's no reason to. It's just easier to not resize it. I'm torn between actually passing the count in. It probably saves us some computation, but, like, also, who cares? So we just need to make sure that there isn't a problem with doing it this way. I don't think there is. In fact, I don't think I need to touch the rest of this. Yeah, we're just going to proceed. And then the real question is, do I need to make this list? I think I do. We still use the index. I'm going to say index in compartment. So that's what we're not actually looking at the compartment value itself. We're looking at like the index of it. I might change the way I think about that. So the current way that this works, current way we have this is that for each coordinate, for each block, so we get the cursor block. The cursor block is the block that the mouse is hovering over. We make a list of all of the compartments in that cursor block. And then what we need to do is we need to go through every other coordinate. And I guess if it has basically... we don't even need to do this for each index in compartments thing. I think what we can do is we can just say... oh, we're reassigning parts here, which I don't want to do. What we could do is we can just say, instead of reassign this, can we just ask if, we can say if parts, we can say if bit dot has any parts. Actually, what we want to do is we want to say blocks dot get coords parts, and we want to just put in the other parts. Get the right number of parentheses in here. So this way, so instead of going through each index, like basically instead of going through each compartment, all we need to do, it's actually kind of recursive. We actually do need to do something kind of recursive because we need to say, we actually need to make a new listing of parts is what we need to do. We need to, so instead of this whole compartment this compartment build thing, so we take this set of parts. And what we need to do is we actually need to go through each of these. So parts is short for compartments, which I know is terrible, and I swear I will rename it someday. Probably not. It's probably going to be called that for the next 6 years. So compartments. So this is a list of all the compartments that the core block belongs to, the cursor coordinate block, the block that the mouse is over. We basically need to make a new set of compartments that includes all of the entries that correspond to each compartment in the hierarchy. So we need to like, so you belong to this compartment and this compartment. What are the compartments that obscure those compartments? And then you got to ask, what are the compartments that obscure those compartments, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of, so we got to build this thing. And we kind of need to exhaustively go through this thing. So the best way to do this probably would be to say, I'm going to say ulong cutaway equals, well, we're going to say ulong cutaway. We're going to say for each, let's say for variable I equals 0, I is less than 64, I plus plus. It's still really dumb that I'm hard coding like this is a ulong and it's not some kind of like flexible thing like a bit array, because it's giving us a hard limit of 64 compartments per ship. But I'm telling myself that rather than use a bit array, which is a class, which is not something I can just pass around. I mean, it is exactly something I can pass around, but it's not something that I can store in a component, is the way I should say it. Then I kind of don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if bit.has parts I, we're going to say, so we need this hierarchy. Where are we getting this hierarchy from? We need to pass this thing in. Buffer 3D read, oh, buffer read only, not 3D. Buffer read only, ulong. hierarchy. Oh, we could call this compartments. Possibly. We could also call it part hierarchy. Where do I grab this? Where's my run function? Way up here. So before we do this, we need to get variable part hierarchy. So the compartment hierarchy is new buffer read only ulong game.world.get component compartment buffer game.world.parts part hierarchy component flags compartment buffer. You're wearing these same headphones, Dylan dude? Welcome to the chat. It's nice to hear. Yeah, these are HD 559s. They're old, but they're so good. I don't know how long I've had these, but it's been a long time. Yeah, they're really nice. Anyway, how's it going? Welcome in. All right, so now we can quiz this part hierarchy thing. So we go through each of these. So we ask, so if bit has this, then what we need to do is we need to say for variable I is equal to 0, I is less than 64, I plus plus. I think this is how I do it. So we say part hierarchy dot span I. I'm not super good at recursion, but I think we'll figure it out. I think I need to do three deep or something like that. So first we just ask, is this block that we're currently looking at in this compartment being I? If it is, then we need to look at the part hierarchy for that compartment, for compartment I. And we need to ask if bit.has II. So then we need to go through each of the bits in that hierarchy entry. So what are all of the compartments that obscure this compartment? I'm just going to write it out this way in a way that's dumb, and then we'll like figure out the recursion for it. Problem is that this can just keep going many times, because you could find a compartment in this list of compartments, and then you could find a compartment in that list of compartments, and you just keep going, and you just keep setting the values. Is there a simpler way to do this? Probably. We basically need to just keep adding, we just keep setting bits on this cutaway until we include all compartments that obscure any of the compartments that the cursor is mousing over. So what's the easiest way to do that, like recursively? There's like a function call here. So instead of this set of for loops, what we need to do is we need to say, well, we maybe still need the outer one. We maybe still need this outer loop. So we just got to go through each of the ones in here. But this part is wrong, because we can't just do this. We need to say, maybe we need a function. We can do a check as we go along to make sure that we aren't just like looping forever. So we go through each of these. We go through each bit in the initial block. And then basically for each of those bits, we need to do the same. We need to start going through the hierarchy. So we need to So we walk the hierarchy and add everyone from the immediate thing to it. So if bit.hasInput.I. Do I want to send an input value, or do I want to just put in an index to walk? All right, I guess since we're doing a recursive function, the thing that we should define first is what is the case that ends the call. Basically, we're going to walk the hierarchy until some state. So the cutaway starts by just having all of the compartments. Now, we don't actually want to cut away the compartments themselves, do we? Hey, Anonymous. And in fact, we don't actually want to start by cutting away the actual parts here. Thanks for the hydrate. All right, so what is, excuse me. So let's say we've got a list of compartments that we want to cut away. Each of those compartments has its own list of compartments that should be cut away for their own benefit. So we keep doing that, and we do that what? Until the cutaway value includes all of the... Until the cutaway value includes all of the bits in the part hierarchy. The problem is a compartment could block a compartment that blocks a compartment. And that can go far. So we can't just process it once through straightforward. It has to be... Oh, we just add the values from the hierarchy at that index to the input and we resubmit. Easy. All right. So we'll say output. So in that case, we actually want... Do we want to do an index? Do we want to go by index or go by value? Probably by value. If bit.has has input, output equals output, well, bit.set output hierarchy. Repo, a little off topic, but crossed your brain. What database or backend am I using or going to use? Any of those decisions based on performance? There is no multiplayer component of this. There will be like mod support. So there will be the support for people to like swap in their own ships, their own encounters, their own like story bits, campaigns even. However, the alpha version of the game is not going to directly support people sharing that stuff for obvious security reasons. So that'll kind of be up to individuals if they're willing to like plug in, you know, files they pull off the internet or whatever. For the alpha, very, very important that this is for the alpha. Once we hit beta, I'm going to use Steam Workshop to manage all of the mod files and stuff like that. So it's going to be the Steam backend. For anything that needs to actually be associated with like a user or whatever, it's going to be just the Steamworks stuff. Because yeah, otherwise there's no multiplayer component, so there's no real reason to do any of that. I'm deathly afraid of multiplayer. It is already hard enough. All right, so do I have this right? So if a bit has this index, we want to add, so output shouldn't be OUL, output should be input. So output's input, and then what we do is we add this section of the hierarchy to the output. And then what we feed that back through is the input again. How do we ever break then? I need to do some kind of evaluation. I need to have some idea when we're done. God, I hate recursion. I should have frankly thought about this before I went live, but you know, that's not really my style. My style is to just go live and do stuff. Okay, here's what we can do. This core loop, this first loop, this only needs to happen once. And the recursion can happen below here. So that's our, we don't need it to be endless. We just need it to, once we've identified an index, we need to add all of the compartments that block any compartment that block compartment I. So we just need to recurse around compartment I. think I have a more clear idea of what we're doing. So I don't know if we're actually gonna feed in a value. I think we're gonna feed in an index. Is that right? Hold on. Let's work on the structure of this, and then we can work on the specifics. So this if bit.has parts I. So if our cursor coords, if we're hovering over a, so if this index corresponds to a compartment that the cursor is hovering over, great. Then what we need to do we need to say cutaway. We need to say bit dot set cutaway part hierarchy span I. This is not sufficient. All right, I think I figured it out. I say that very confidently. So for when we walk the hierarchy, we submit an input. These are all the set bits that need to have the hierarchy span added to them, or the hierarchy value at a particular index added to them. These are all the indexes, essentially. And so we make an output. We make an output that includes these inputs. Should the output include the input? I'm actually not 100% sold on that. I don't think it needs to. Hey, Diginanigans, how's it going? So we go through each. We say if this bit has this input, we set the output with this. So we don't do this. Maybe we do set this. feel very close to knowing what to do here, and yet. So let's focus on one step of the walk. So we pass in, these are all the compartments that we want to add to our output. We do all that. We return output. Funny how it thinks that output could be a constant. It's like not correct, but I don't think it knows that bit set is actually changing this. I don't think it knows that bit set is ORing the value into the field here. So we go through each index in the input. If one of those input bits is set, we add the hierarchy at that index to the output. So at one level, this is all the... Okay, and then once we've done that, we need to basically feed this output back through because we need to walk it again from this output. The only real question is, how do I know when I'm done? How do I know when I'm done with this? Not too bad, Diginanigans. You're playing around with your grid logic and prepping for your own auto-tiler shenanigans. Seems pretty much mandatory at that point. Nice. Welcome to the club. As long as you want to be able to build levels with any reasonable amount of effort, yeah, you will need auto-tiling. Unless you have a small, very handmade thing in mind, it's going to help a lot. So this adds all the compartments that directly obstruct the compartments listed in input. The problem is we need to loop through it again to add all the compartments that those compartments obstruct. And so what? Can I tell that I'm done? How do I tell that I'm done? When we're no longer adding anything? When we're like done? When like the input matches the output? Is that how I can tell I'm done? Heading out for 15 minutes? Yeah, no worries. We'll be here. I think that's it, is like once we get to the point where like we've run out of depth. Yeah, because we'll add all of the compartments that obscure this compartment. And then if we pass that in with all of those compartments, we'll get all of the compartments that obscure those compartments. And so, yeah, once we do a pass and there's no change, it's just how do I want to represent that? Also, I think output has to be the same as input, doesn't it? Yeah, it has to be input. Why do you still think this is a constant? Can I just say this? It's probably really bad form to modify an input parameter. Cutaway equals OUL. So what we're going to do is we're going to say no, because output can be input, but not at first. So what we need to do is we need to first say, we need to say cutaway equals walk hierarchy parts hierarchy. Part hierarchy. So this will give us all of the compartments that directly block this. And then the problem is we need to feed that back through. So now we need a while statement here. We need to say while. Maybe there should be an out variable. And we could have like a bool. You can say return output is equal to input, or input is equal to output. Do I want output to equal input? Yeah, because it needs to just keep adding, huh? Oh no, output can't equal input or we have a huge problem. I say out, long, output. Say hierarchy, input, output. All right, we got ads coming. Okay, I think I'm getting it. Can't have this. So we're going to say parts hierarchy, parts. We're going to say out, ulong, cutaway. Or actually, we could say output. Can't have this equals. Actually, we can't have this be cutaway. So what we can do is we can say while ulong cutaway ulong cutaway equals oul. You just say variable. So we can say while output, we can say while cutaway, as long as adding the output to the cutaway is not the same as the cutaway, we walk the hierarchy using the cutaway, using that hierarchy. I'm figuring it out. Recursion's not that hard. Oh, this isn't going to work the way I thought it would. I can't do it with an out variable. I can say initial. No, I can't say initial. All right, forget the out variable. This sounds like a Risk of Rain song. All right, I think this works now. So here's what we do. This is our idea. We define this cutaway, starts at 0. We define an output by walking the hierarchy once with the initial set of compartments. That should give us a list of compartments that are obscured, or that obscure the initial compartments. As long as putting cutaway and output together generates a different value than just cutaway by itself, meaning as long as we've added fresh components or compartments to it, then we will add those outputs to the cutaway, and we will continue. We'll generate a new set of outputs. Using the cutaway as an input. Should we use the cutaway as an input, or should we use the output as the input? The last output. It should probably just be the last output because we don't need to check the whole thing again every time. I'll call this the walk. And when we're done with that, we should have a recursive list of all of the compartments that block our compartment. I think it's funny that Ryder seems to think that these values are constant, even though I'm definitely setting them here. That's my fault a little bit, the way I've structured this. I really want to stop using just raw U-longs, and I want to kind of make my own little bit field struct. Call it like bitfield 64 or something like that, or like bit 64. I don't know, bitfield 64. Who knows? I would like to hide the implementation a little bit, but right now, let's not care about that. So we no longer need to make this list of compartments, I don't think. Instead, all we're going to do is we're going to go through. So I don't think we need to make this list. And instead of this, so we'll still for each the coordinates, but instead what we can do is we can say if bit.hasAny, we can ask if this block has any of the compartments in the cutaway. So does this block we're considering have any compartments that match? And if it does, and we'll just add, say, cutaways, not add coords. You get rid of all this too. This feels suspiciously simple. almost sure something's going to go horribly wrong. Let's try it, though. I don't know. What's the worst that could happen? We get stuck in an infinite loop. And, like, the stream crashes. And, in fact, the rendering is not going to, like, work at all correctly the way we're doing this. There's a bunch more work that's going to be involved in this. Because we're just adding the coordinates. We're not adding the layer type. What we should do is we should try this with cutaway tiles by compartment first. We should try that. We should try doing it this way first. So let's take all the initial set of logic here. Replace this with that. Why didn't that work? Oh. So we're calling this cursor. Instead of all of this nonsense. So we can say this. We can say if key.z is equal to cursor coords, this part is true. What are we tackling today? We're finding the cutaway system? Yeah. We're basing it off of compartments entirely, so it's like if you've got a compartment that is visually blocking the compartment in front of it, and you're trying to look into that compartment, it will recursively go through and cut away all the compartments that block your compartment that you're looking at. So it'll block the compartment that blocks the compartment that blocks the compartment that you're looking at. That's the idea. Okay, now we just add this section, which seems really simple. Key.xyz. Yeah, it'll be good if you know, if it works. So we have an early out here. Which is if we're looking at the same level and we're a floor, then we'll ignore it. Otherwise, we want to eliminate all of this stuff. All right, we're going to try it in the tile context because the tile context is the one that we already have working, and switching the cutaway to the block context is going to take more work. All right, moment of truth. Crash. Infinite loop crash. I need some help from the other cutaway system to see what's going on. Oh, it needs to do more than just... Well, let's see. Let's see what's going on here. What if I add a second one? Okay, it does nothing. Okay, so far nothing. Let's see what the walk is telling us here, or what the cutaway tells us. Hey, hard-coded. That's about as much room as you give your dwarves in Dwarf Fortress. You mean like the whole colony? That's as much room as they get? Oh, I'm not doing any assignments. I'm so dumb. I don't know why I thought this would work in place. Obviously it doesn't. Output equals bit.set. Cutaway equals bit.set. Nah, each room you had those 3 rooms broken up. Yours flashbacks. Those would be the rooms of nobles. More than a 1x16 hole in the wall. Man, you shoved your people into 1x16 holes in the wall. I give mine at least a 2. My plebs at least a 2x2. If I'm feeling generous, a 3x3. But you can get it all at 2x2, right? You got room for a dresser, a chest, and a bed. That's plenty of space. 1x6. That's insane. Yeah, I'd go with a 2x2, maybe a 2x3 if I was generous. And hence why Ryder was suggesting your output could be constant. Yeah, Diginanigans. I should have listened to Ryder. Ryder gives me some weird recommendations sometimes, so I've kind of stopped trusting it, especially when it's not a warning or an error, when it's just like a, you know, you could just do this thing, it'd be pretty cool. Half the time it's like, you know, you could use Link instead of what you're doing, and I'm like, I don't want to use Link. If I wanted to use Link, I would be using Link. I need to do some like, not Dwarf Fortress, but I think I need to play some RimWorld soon. Because I'm looking at the scale of my game here, and I'm like looking at like how much information the player's gonna need to process, and I'm like, I'm gonna need to slow this way down. This is gonna need to be like much slower than like FTL, which I think is fine. I mean, the pausable real time means it doesn't have to be that slow, but like, I would like a casual person to be able to play it without pausing. All right, well, now that I've got the assignment set up, we're probably good, right? I mean, I'm sure the cutaway is not going to be working, but as long as the hierarchy is giving us the right numbers, that's good enough for me at the moment. Okay, it's still giving us zeros, which is concerning. It shouldn't be giving us zeros. Oh my god. No. This is correct. I zero out the hierarchy, and then we do the thing. After this, we should be able to say... I'm just going to do a debug. Debug.writeLine. We're going to say if hierarchy span I is not equal to 0. We're going to say debug.writeLine. We're going to say I. We're going to say compartment is obstructed by, we're going to say hierarchy dot span I dot toString. The toString isn't going to work, is it? Oh, we can say bit dot toString. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then let's hide the other debug write line wherever the hell I put it. Here. See what we're getting. You pause RimWorld constantly. True. I think I just want to lean into stuff like that, like the characters having personality, because they're all going to look basically the same. So I need some way of like you caring about them, and I think the RimWorld personality thing might be kind of fun. But how's it going? How's it going, hard-coded? What have you been up to? So compartment 1 is obstructed by... Compartment 1 is obstructed by compartment 1. Well, that's no good. Okay, compartment 1 is obstructed by 1. Compartment 2 is obstructed by 2. I did something at some point that totally messed this up, because that's insane. Also, there's 3 compartments. Well, I guess one of the compartments isn't obstructed by anything. Oh, wait. Compartment 1 is obstructed by 0. Compartment 2 is obstructed by 1. No, that is correct. That is correct. No, that's not correct. That's not correct. What did I do? Must have changed something last night. Alright, let's double check this. What's going on here? It could be an off by 1 thing, which is very possible. Hierarchy.span index. Bit set hierarchy span index. Bit clear. Positive block parts index. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change this debugger for a second. I'm gonna say for I is less than count. And then instead of we're just gonna write them all out so I can be sane here. Because I think it's working. I think the hierarchy should be working correctly. I don't think I changed anything. Let's do it like this. Let's put a room back here. Let's put a room up here. Let's put another room over here. Oh, it's too far. So compartment 0 is obstructed by nothing. Compartment 1 is obstructed by nothing. Compartment 2 is obstructed by 0 and 1. Okay, okay. I think this is correct. Let's add one more room here and just try to make sure. All right. Compartment 0 is not obstructed by anything. That's this compartment. Compartment 1 and 2 are obstructed by compartment 0. And then compartment... Compartment 3 is obstructed by compartments 1, 2, or 0, 1, and 2. Okay, that's technically correct. I want to try doing it like this, though. That shouldn't be working like that. Well, it's because of the diagonal. It's actually kind of unavoidable, but that's fine. So anyway, that part seems to be working. What if I make a... Oh, I can't. What if I copy this? All right. Let's try a copy paste that like never works for us. Let's make another one down here. Oh. Oh, I know what I need to do. Forget about that. I need to copy just this part, not the ceiling. And then now we can bring it down, move it in, paste it, unselect it. Oh. Do you not consider a paste a change? Oh, it doesn't. That's concerning. Anyway, so we now have 8 compartments. First 4 compartments all block each other. Second 4 compartments. Oh, and they're also blocked by the other compartments. Okay, this is all looking correct. So I think the part hierarchy is being generated correctly. Starting to get matrix vision where I can see this long string of zeros and ones and actually like understand what it means. But only in very, 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 very specific contexts. Is that a good sign? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, no, Joel. Oh, here's another failure to assign. This is probably causing the problem. What we have here is failure to commit an assignment. That's my Cool Hand Luke reference. I don't like it any more than you, man. All right, it's almost working. It's very close. Hey, McBolly Balls. Can you see what the game looks like? Kind of. Yeah, we're messing around with some tooling. We're working on kind of an isometric 3D sci-fi game. It's going to be like an isometric 3D version of like FTL, Faster Than Light. So what we're working on right now is a tool that lets me build the spaceships. So yeah, a game maker and a game maker. Yeah. Although we're not using game maker, we're using Godot. Important caveat. But how are you doing? Thanks for hopping in here. All right, so the floors above are, so we need some help from the cutaway tiles by coordinate function. Cutaway tiles by cursor coords. So if key.z is less than cursor coords.z, oh man. How do I want to do this? I need some way of, you know, we probably need floors. No, we can't do that. We need some way to cut the ceiling off. I think I can do this temporarily. We can just say if e.z is less than cursor.z. I don't want that to be the permanent way we handle this. can actually put this at the bottom. Mark it as a hack. I shouldn't have done it in here. Do it in here. Do it in here so I can full screen it. All right, so now the system should more aggressively, yeah, cut away. All right, so if we start making rooms here. Okay. We're starting to get the behavior we want. Yeah, do you see that? It works on the other compartments. It's not cutting away its own wall, though. But we're getting closer. It needs to cut away its own foreground walls. I forgot about that behavior. So it needs to figure out what its foreground edge walls are. Man, I had all the code for that and I like erased it. To GitHub. To the Git logs. But it's hiding the back walls of the compartments in front of it now, which is pretty smart. It also needs to like check the ceilings. When it's doing this, it needs to like check the block above it. And it needs to cut those away too. I want a more sophisticated ceiling cutaway. All right, so, oh yeah, the Git. Let's see, I erased something from here that I needed, this part. So we get the blocks in front. So how do we do that with our the new thing here? So we need to get some blocks. So we get our positive block neighbors, and what we're doing is we're just checking to see. We need to see if either of these. So we need to see, oh, we can do this one at a time. So we can just say if positive x block dot parts, hold on, I'll say bit, if bit dot has positive x block dot parts, cutaway, cutaways dot add key. We do the same thing here. What we need to do is we need to say, we also need to do a negative Z block check. We can do the same thing with the negative Z block. So vector 3 I dot forward. You can say if bit dot has negative Z block parts cutaway cutaways dot add. Oh, we actually need to say negative Z block cutaway. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. We need something more sophisticated for handling Z level stuff. That's gonna be one of our next challenges here. We can do this. So it's if they have a cutaway coordinate in the next. Actually, what we want to do is we want to see that no, that's not going to work. No, that should work. That should work. If not, bit dot has positive X block parts. No, that doesn't work either. Oh, we could say has only. I've never actually used this one yet. Say if not, bit dot has only. That looks for do you exclusively have these values and no others? That's a good check for being whether you're at the edge or not. So we need a has only check or a oh, there's another case where that's not good. No. That should be fine. That should be fine. So what does has only do if they don't have it? You're just saying is field not equal to value. Okay. All right, let's try this. We've added some adjustments. Let's make a big area here. Oh, we got a spam bot. And everyone knows what that means. Okay, so that's too much. That is too much. Why is it doing my own back wall? It should not be checking my own back wall. What did I do? Oh, does this just not work if there's only one compartment? That's possible. Let's double check that real quick. Oh, hold on. Let me spam this. Let me spam this bot. Let me ban this spam bot. Got him. We're gonna make multiple small rooms here instead. We're gonna kind of make them in kind of a weird way. That was too much. Why? Why are you just going crazy town? Oh, there's something to do with 0. The has only is... You see this is kind of working here. Kind of. Emphasis on kind of. That's 2 of these. Yeah, the has only is not it. What was my initial check that I used to do? If bit.has positive x.block parts and... Oh. This system that I have here malfunctions on the walls, on the boundaries between 2 coordinates. How would you do it? So what if we don't use a has? We're looking for an excuse to not cut this away. If bit.has any blocks.getKey.xyz.parts cut away. Oh, we need to continue. This is what we need. We need to get out of this before it happens. Before we hit that conditional. That's what we need to do. So we are just gonna straight up do what we were doing before and hope that it works. Okay, we're gonna see if this works for us. If bit.has and parts. Oh, that's not going to work either. I'm running into a problem because I'm not doing that checking each individual layer thing. I'm trying to like operate on the whole thing. This isn't going to do anything. Why aren't you considered part of this? Oh, because nothing blocks you. Oh no, this is working. Why is that working? What happens when I hit a wall, though? Oh, the whole thing fails. That's why. This is like almost working. This is a little weird. I don't know why this wall is... Actually, I do know why that wall is going away. This is more aggressive than I was hoping. I see why it's doing what it's doing. But it's like eliminating everything. Like it doesn't need to eliminate these back walls to look over here. Dang. Can I not do this way? Will this not yield the behavior that I want? We could check. We could check behind us. We could check behind us and say, is the block behind us have any of the cutaway parts? Let's try that. Let's try that. I don't want back walls to unnecessarily. So instead of positive block, let's do some stuff with negative block. Let's try negative block. Say block negative x block equals blocks dot get or default blocks dot AABB dot view absolute cursor plus vector 3i dot left block negative y block equals get or default. Down. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say if negative x block, we're gonna say if negative x block does not have bit dot has any negative x block dot parts. Away. Continue. This might mess up some other stuff, but it might help with this specific case. Okay, this is doing nothing. There's probably a way simpler way to do this. But I want to try this a little bit more. I'm interested in this working. Why doesn't this do anything? So if not bit dot has any Negative X block parts, dot parts, cutaway. So if you don't have a single cutaway compartment, negative X block, blocks dot getter default. I thought this would have worked. This is basically saying, okay, the block behind us. What's the block behind us? If it's like, if the block behind us doesn't need to be cut away, then we don't need to be cut away, right? That should just have worked. Annoyingly. Honestly, this should be kind of at the top here. Okay, this is looking bad. No. This isn't different at all. So now it's doing nothing. Now it's never cutting anything away ever. Would it be just better if we just handled the compartment we were looking in? Find the minimum and the maximum. You know, I think I can think of a better way to do this that's maybe less onerous. Thought it would be cool to do it this way. But it's turning out to be a pain in the butt. We do have some cool tools now, though. So why does this blocks.get or default if not bit dot has any? So if this does have any in the cutaway, that shouldn't be included in the cutaway. Let me check this real quick. Walk hierarchy. The parts. I'm tempted to go back to like an axis align bounding box solution that's like really easy. And what we could do is we could just shift it up so you get this kind of tunnel vision effect towards the compartment you want to look at. Tempted to try that next. This is turning out to be annoying. What is the logic of has any? Oh, Lord. It's just an and. Okay, so it's... Is field and a value not equal to 0? Oh, yeah, that's fine. It should be fine. Hey! Sostov! How's it going? Yeah, it's been a minute. Oh, ads are... Oh, it's too late for me to snooze the ads. I'm so sorry, everyone on Twitch. I was gonna snooze them because we're probably gonna be wrapping up soon. But how are you doing? What have you been up to? You've told me how to pronounce your name in the past. I fear I've slightly forgotten. All right, I think I'm reasonably pleased with the doing a compartment hierarchy, but I think I will like a simpler system better. We're gonna try, I think tomorrow we're gonna try going back to a bounding box based one where we figure out the bounding box of each compartment, and that will at least let us kind of accommodate weird layouts and stuff. And I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do, each time we go up a Z level, we're gonna go up and shift forward. And we'll add a little bit of a we'll add a little bit of a buffer. We'll add like a 4-block buffer. So it takes this AABB and it basically shifts it up and towards you every time. And it's gonna give us this like tunnel into the ship. And I think that is maybe the best view that we're gonna get for probably the least effort. Oh well, this is game dev. You go one direction, you realize you didn't want to go that way, you turn around, you go the other direction. This is game dev. Oh, your hard drive. I remember. Your hard drive was damaged. They said the hard disk was recoverable, but it has 0.002 kilobits per second speed at best in recovery. We're asking a lot of money for recovery. Most likely it's gone. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. That really sucks to lose work, especially a lot of work. All right, well, we're going to commit what we've got. I've got a meeting at 2, so I got to get going in the next few minutes. We're going to commit what we got, and then tomorrow we are going to come back and we are going to try this other approach. I got to do a recursive function, though. That was good for my brain. This hierarchy walk thing we were doing. Where we would walk the hierarchy until there was nothing left to walk. So that was cool. That was a fun thing to do. I feel like there's some utility in this stuff that we could get. I do want to free up. I will be happy to not be running the get compartment hierarchy anymore, because I think there's too much going on during the floodfill step. So any reduction in work that we can do during the floodfill step is positive for us. I am glad I got my little bitwise operators, or my bitwise helper stuff. I want to just make a proper component though, or if not a component, like a struct or something that's just like, this is my bit field, and then I can make it however I want. I can make like a short, I can make it like a u short or a u int or a u long, depending on what I need, and it'll just be fine. You got exams coming up in January. You're focusing on that. Am I down to react to a good trailer? Not right now. I gotta run. I got a meeting in about 5 minutes. But if you wanna, if it's appropriate, you can post it in our Discord, and I can check it out a little later today. But yeah. probably shouldn't commit everything that we did today, but I'm going to, in case we change our mind. First AA game from your country. Yeah, please pop it in the Discord. I want to check it out, but I do have to run. I have no time. Or come back tomorrow, and maybe I could watch it on stream then. We'll be back. We'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. No stream Saturday. I'm gonna be moving furniture. I will probably injure myself. Okay, yeah, I can do I could react to it live tomorrow. Just try to pop in a little earlier. Cool. Well, this has been a nice stream. I appreciate everyone popping in, hanging out. Yeah, same time tomorrow. Thank you all so much for watching. And I don't like this song, so we're gonna have a different outro song. Here we go. Music to toast bread to. Cool. All right. Bye, y'all.